some encouragement. Now, we went over 3 weeks ago the Olivet Discourse. Last week, Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And then after he washes their feet, they eat together. They have this meal together. Jews still celebrate the Seder meal or the Passover. And many of the forms even left are still from the Old Testament. But Jesus changed all that. And we'll pick it up here. Look in your notes, Luke 22, verse 20. Jesus is in the middle of the Passover meal or the Last Supper. And he says, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood." So this is what's happening. And right after this, then, at the Last Supper, what takes place? Look at verse 24. Within minutes, they, the disciples, what were they doing? After Jesus had washed their feet, after he says, this bread is my body broken for you, after he said, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, what happens? What do the disciples do? Within minutes, they were bickering over who of them would end up the greatest. But Jesus intervened. Kings like to throw their weight around, and people in authority like to give themselves fancy titles. It's not going to be that way with you. Let the senior among you become like the junior. Let the leader act the part of the servant. Verse 27, who would you rather be, the one who eats the dinner or the one who serves the dinner? You'd rather eat and be served. But I've taken my place among you as the one who serves. Did you see it there? Right there, in this very place that we honor Jesus in communion, as we did last Sunday, as we think about the cross, there the disciples have the seed form of mad church disease. This fighting, this selfishness, this pettiness, this I don't get this at all in their behavior and in their attitude especially. Now, as I mentioned, we had this assessment. And what I saw at first glance, and I've read all 220 comments and profiles, and not profiles, surveys that you filled out. And at first it was a bit staggering, it was daunting, it was overwhelming, especially at the span of comments. Let me just give you some, for instance, I'm going to quote from some of the input. For example, on the subject of volume in all three services, one person says, it's too loud. Another person says, please crank it up so I can feel it in my soul. On the subject of music, we need more rock music. Another says, we need more alternative Christian music. Another says, we need more choir and traditional music. And another person says, we need more music from the 70s and 80s. I agree with that laughter. Scratch my head. Whatever that means. In areas of ministry that we should emphasize, comment, we need more emphasis on seniors. Another person, we need more emphasis on young adults. Another comment, we need more emphasis on youth. And finally, we need more emphasis on children. You see where I'm going here? Is what are we going to do? And there's a sense at which whatever you do, the good news is we've attracted a church of people, a group of people that are a wide spectrum, really from 0 to 100. If you look around, and not only in this service, but at our church as a whole, you'll find people in every age group. And as a matter of fact, that's been our goal. That's been our stated vision, that we as a church, and we believe it ought to be this way, that we reach people from every generation, and that they can be here and grow spiritually. But what that does, it invites a tremendous variety and puts together an eclectic group that can be frustrating to try to meet all of those needs and wishes. So you say, why did you do this? Why did you take this microscope and turn it on yourself? Why take this x-ray? Well, we really wanted to get a beneath the surface feel and look at our church. Now, some of you think we did this because we're sadistic about change. We just want to change things and make you miserable. That's not true. Some of you think we did this because we just want to get bigger. Bigger is always better. And some of you have chosen to come to this church because we are smaller, because you can know more people, typically in a smaller church. This wasn't about getting bigger. Notice on your notes, I've stated the goal for this X-ray. The X-ray goal was simply this: to chart a path to church health that will lead us to a vibrant, balanced, and effective ministry. What we're really looking for is health. Now, let me give you an example of this, of the issues that we faced. We already knew, going into this X-ray, going to the doctor, so to speak, we already knew that there were some symptoms. There were some issues. Issues with, for example, and some of you could raise your hand right now and confirm this, that you're new to First Baptist Church, you like First Baptist Church, you come back to First Baptist Church, you sign up for something on the card, or you want to get connected to other people, you want to make some friends, and while it's a friendly church, you want to make some friends at church. And so maybe you've made a stab or two at connecting and making friends, only to be frustrated, only to see your name drop through the cracks and no one ever contact you. Well, that's a problem. That's a problem that we have in terms of health. We want to take better care of people, especially those that God has prepared and is bringing to us. We have some issues with outreach. We have many ministries that are starting to make inroads and impact the community, but our evangelism in terms of actual conversions to Jesus Christ is relatively low. So we had some issues that we knew coming into this, and we wanted to get a more accurate, even scientific look at ourselves. So here's an executive summary. How many of you, by the way, just so for my own knowledge, how many of you were here that Sunday afternoon 1 month ago when Bill Hoyt stood here and gave us this executive report? Raise your hands. Let me just, okay, about a quarter. Maybe not even a quarter. So this will be somewhat new to some of you. First were some of the affirmations, things that we learned on the positive side about First Baptist Church. Some people, a lot of people, like the preaching. And not just mine, the preaching team. Secondly, the church has a good emphasis on being outwardly focused and making some progress in that area. Specific ministries were mentioned, like outreach and children's ministry, youth ministry, and so on. Life cycle. This church is 146 years old. Did you know that? That means when this church was started in Boise, Idaho, Abraham Lincoln was president. That's a long time ago. Most churches do not exist that long. Certainly churches that are healthy or growing or vibrant or a sense that we're moving in the right direction. Okay? So actually, we're pretty healthy on the life cycle, that is on the younger side, even though chronologically the church is very old. And overall health is good. Some great things happening in our church. Lives are changing and ministries are touching more and more people. We're caring for more people, even those that don't become Christians, just in terms of helping and impacting the community. Now, here are some issues, as I mentioned a couple of them already. One is a low bias for change. What is that? That means that relatively everybody's happy. Now, nobody's happy about everything, but overall, people are happy with First Baptist Church. My old pastor used to say, every now and then, a pastor needs to hit the beehive, make every bee mad. I'm not very good at that. I read a book recently, Thriving on Chaos, and the whole idea is if you want to move a company in the right direction, you need to create some disequilibrium. You have to create some unhappiness, some unhappiness with the status quo, and unfortunately we're a little bit complacent with the status quo at First Baptist Church. Why haven't we moved more aggressively to fix some of the issues that we already knew we had and were confirmed by the X-ray? Well, the reason is because we're still pretty happy with things. There's not this tremendous need, there's not this crisis that motivates us even in our personal lives when we need to and want to make changes. So we have a low bias for change. By the way, we're putting together this assessment team that is stated goal to implement and to begin to work on remedies and ways that we can move toward these symptoms and address them one by